Hello students, myself Prakash, your bio lecturer. Today we will be learning one of the most beautiful chapter. The chapter name is called Reproduction in Organism. So what else we will be learning under this chapter? So in today's class we will be learning some important concepts under this chapter. The first important concept we will be learning, which is called as introduction about reproduction in organism, and the second concept, which is called as lifespan. This is very important. So perhaps everybody you may be knowing about the definition of lifespan. So next I'll be giving the definition of a lifespan, and the next important concept is reproduction and its types. Here we will be learning the definition of reproduction, and also we will be learning the two important types of reproduction. Which are those two important types of reproduction? Already it's on the screen. Asexual reproduction and as well as sexual reproduction. See, and also we will be learning the differences between the asexual versus sexual reproduction. It's very important to know the differences between asexual and sexual reproduction, because that is very important so far as your theory part is concerned. The next concept which we will be learning is only about asexual reproduction. After learning the definition of asexual reproduction, it's very important to learn the 5 different types of asexual reproduction, because under asexual reproduction 5 different types of asexual reproduction are there. Among them, the first one is called as budding, the second one is called as binary fission, and the third one is called as fragmentation, and the fourth one is called as sporulation, and the fifth one is called as vegetative propagation. So under this module we will be learning the first 2 important types of asexual reproduction, which is called as budding and as well as binary fission. Types of binary fission and budding, these are the important concepts we will be learning. So first let us learn a small introduction about the lifespan. Children, all of you know that each and every living organisms on the earth, they have a distinct lifespan, and moreover each and every living organism, they will die after a specific period of time. That means after completing their lifespan, definitely they are going to die, but except unicellular organisms. Sir, why the unicellular organisms will not die? There is a question mark in your mind. So that I will be giving the explanation in the coming modules. Now let us learn what do you mean by lifespan. How can I define the lifespan? See, the lifespan can be defined as it is the period from birth to the natural death of an organism is called as its lifespan. Very important. The definition is very important. That might be probably asked for 1 mark so far as your theory part is concerned. Define lifespan. And moreover, children, you know that so lifespan varies from one group of organism to another group of organism, because all the organisms will not be having only one particular lifespan. Each and every living organisms, they have their own lifespan. So let us learn some of the organisms and their lifespan. See how many years they are going to live on the earth. So the very first one, which is called butterfly. So beautiful colored butterfly, the lifespan is 1 to 2 weeks. See, so beautiful, but its lifespan is 1 to 2 weeks. After 2 weeks it dies. It completes the lifespan, then it dies. Next, coming to the Drosophila. See, Drosophila, it is the scientific name. The common name is called as fruit fly. See, its lifespan is 3 to 4 weeks. Just 3 to 4 weeks. After 4 weeks it completes its life cycle, and again it starts the new life cycle. Next one, the rice plant. See, the lifespan of the rice plant is 4 to 5 months. So because of this, a farmer can grow the rice plant twice in a year. So twice in a year a farmer can grow the rice plant. The next one, which is called as rose plant. See, the lifespan of the rose plant is 5 to 7 years. The lifespan of rose plant is 5 to 7 years. And the next coming, which is called as crow. Crow is a bird. So aves, it belongs to the class called aves. The lifespan of the crow is 15 years. 15 years. Next, after the crow, the next lifespan is, which is called as banana tree. See, the banana tree is having the lifespan of 25 years. So perhaps you might not be knowing the banana tree lifespan is 25 years. Next one, after 25 years, next, which is called as dogs and cows. Children, dogs and cows, their lifespan is 25 years. They can survive for 25 years. After 25 years, next upgrade organism, we call it as horses and crocodiles. The lifespan of horses and crocodiles is 60 years. Next, after 60 years, we will be learning the 90 years lifespan. So, which organism is having a lifespan of 90 years? Which is the elephant. Elephant is having the lifespan of 90 years. Then after 90 years, obviously again, so perhaps in your mind it's going next 100 years human beings. Absolutely, it is right. See, the human beings can survive for 100 years. The lifespan of human being is 100 years. Sir, is there any organism which can live more than 100 years? Obviously, the next organism is coming. You doesn't even believe that, parrot. Because a parrot can see 3 generations. The lifespan of the parrot is 140 years. 140 years. Then, sir, after 140 years, is there any organism which can survive for more than 140 years? Obviously, there is an organism which is called as tortoise. A tortoise can survive for 150 to 200 years. Sir, is there any organism more than that 200 years which can survive? Obviously, which is called banyan tree. Banyan tree, the lifespan of the banyan tree is 200 to 300 years. See, it is the one of the organism which has got or which can survive, which can live for 300 years. The next concept after learning about the lifespan of different organisms, please learn all the lifespans of the organism which have studied. So very important so far your competitive examination. So the next concept which we will be learning, which is called as, see, the lifespan again. Here the lifespan of an organism is not correlated with their size and shape. Because if we take an example of crow and parrot, see the next one, for example, if we compare the crow and a parrot, see both crow and parrot, they are of the same size, but shape is also same almost, but the color is totally different. If we take crow and a parrot as an example, because both crow and a parrot are of the same size, but their lifespan totally differs. That means a crow can live only for 15 years, but a parrot can live for 140 years. Just imagine, both are of same size. That's why the lifespan of an organism cannot be correlated with their size and shape. And one more example which can learn about this, the lifespan of crocodile is 60 years. Already we have studied. And the lifespan of butterfly is 1 to 2 weeks. Whatever it may be the lifespan of any organism, every organism undergoes natural death. Once they complete their lifespan, each and every living organism, they are going to die. They are going to have a natural death. But except unicellular organism. Highlight this point, except unicellular organism, each and every living organism on the earth, they die after the completion of their lifespan. So the next concept which we will be learning, which is called as, very important. See, however, there is no natural death for the living organism or single-celled organism or unicellular organisms. Why is it so? There is a question mark. Because the unicellular organism or single-celled organisms, they are called immortal in nature. Immortal means they never die. They do not have death. They never die. Why they are immortal in nature? Because the unicellular organisms, they avoid death by undergoing a special type of asexual reproduction which is called as binary fission. So, a binary fission is a type of asexual reproduction that we will be learning under the types of asexual reproduction. But please keep it in your mind that the unicellular organisms or single-celled organisms, they are immortal in nature. They never die because they avoid death by undergoing binary fission. The best example is amoeba. That is the best example. And the next concept, see, reproduction. So already I have told lifespan is the first important concept which we will be learning under this module. Second one is called as reproduction. As you all know that children, reproduction is one of the most important characteristic features of all living organisms, and it can be defined as it is the ability of an organism to produce their young ones of their own kinds, that means similar kinds, and these young ones ensures the continuing of species from generation to generation. That is the exact definition for reproduction. See, reproduction, one mark question, very important. So next concept which we will be learning, which is called as types of reproduction. See, under reproduction we have two different types. The first one is called as asexual reproduction and the second one is called as sexual reproduction. Asexual and sexual reproduction. See, in asexual reproduction, the young ones are produced. The young ones are produced without the fusion of gametes. That is, without the fusion of male gamete and female gamete, the young ones are produced. That is called as asexual reproduction. And the asexual reproduction is also called as apomixis, or it is also called as agamogenesis, or it is also called by one more name which is called as agamogeny. Please keep it in your mind. Asexual reproduction or apomixis or agamogenesis or agamogeny, all are the same. Next one, sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, what happens? Exactly opposite to this. Here, the young ones are produced by the fusion of male and female gametes to produce a new organism. That is called as sexual reproduction. See, sexual reproduction is also called as amphimixis. AMPHIMIXIS. Please don't get confused between amphimixis and apomixis. Apomixis is also called as asexual reproduction, where amphimixis is also called as sexual reproduction. So I hope that you got the definition of both asexual and sexual reproduction. So next concept what we will be learning, sir? Might be curious. Next concept we will be learning about the differences between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Very important question so far as the theory part is concerned. Now we have got two columns here. Left hand side asexual reproduction, on the other side we have got sexual reproduction. The first differences between asexual versus sexual reproduction is, in asexual reproduction it is uniparental. Uni means single. It is a single parental. Look at the diagram. This is the hydra. Already in 11th you have studied. So this is a single hydra. It belongs to the phylum Coelenterata. The hydra, from the external body surface a new or young ones is developed. That is uniparental. From this parental one more new organism comes. That is called as uniparental. That means from a single parent a new organism develops. But when it comes to sexual reproduction, children, in sexual reproduction it is generally biparental. That means both male and females are required. See, both males and females. That is why the sexual reproduction is called as biparental. Both the sexes are male. The next differences between sexual versus asexual reproduction is, in sexual reproduction it does not involve the formation of gametes. Since the gametes are not formed, then there will be no fusion of gametes. That's why it's been called as asexual reproduction. See, asexual reproduction does not involve the formation of gametes. Hence, it is called as non-gametic. But when it comes to sexual reproduction, the sexual reproduction involves the formation of gametes. That means the males produce male gametes, females produce female gametes. Because of this, the asexual reproduction is called as biparental. Please look at that diagram. Look at that picture. See, this is the egg, female gamete. This is the sperm, male gamete. The fusion of sperm with egg, it produces zygote. Zygote undergoes mitotic division to produce germ layers. again the germ layers develops into a new organisms. So here it involves the formation of gametes. Hence, the sexual reproduction is said to be gametic. That is the second differences between asexual versus sexual reproduction. Coming to the third one, very important. See, the asexual reproduction involves only mitotic division. Meiosis can never occurs in asexual reproduction. But when it comes to sexual reproduction involves both mitotic and as well as meiotic divisions, because mitotic division involved in growth and development of an organism, but the meiotic division involved in sexual reproduction. That is why in sexual reproduction both mitotic and meiotic divisions play a major role. So we have studied three differences. One more differences we will be learning between asexual versus sexual. See, in asexual reproduction, the young ones are genetically similar to their parents. They are genetically similar. See, best example, amoeba you can write. See, this is the parent cell. Look at their daughter cells. The daughter cells looks similar to their parental cell. That's why in asexual reproduction, whatever the young ones are produced, they are genetically similar to their parents. That is the next difference. But when it comes to sexual reproduction, in sexual reproduction, whatever the young ones are produced, they are totally differ genetically from that of their parents. Look at that. Look at that image. See, nobody here looks similar. Totally different. That's why they are genetically differ from that of their parents. So the next difference, which is called reproduction rate, is very faster in case of asexual reproduction. But in case of sexual reproduction, the reproduction rate is slower, very slower. And the next difference between asexual versus sexual, the asexual reproduction is commonly seen in lower organism, that is in unicellular organisms. Best example, amoeba. Not only amoeba, all lower organisms exhibit asexual reproduction. When it comes to sexual reproduction, the sexual reproduction is commonly seen in higher plants and also higher animals. In both higher plants and higher animals, including human beings, because human being is also an animal. Including human beings, higher plants, in higher animals, the sexual reproduction is seen. Best example, it's on the image because it's a higher animal. So far, these children, we have completed the differences between asexual versus sexual reproduction. Okay, children. So far, else we have studied the differences between asexual and sexual reproduction. So might be going in your mind what sirs will be teaching so far as next concept is concerned. See, the next concept we will be learning particularly about asexual reproduction. Children, already you are very familiar with that. The asexual reproduction is commonly seen in lower organism. And moreover, asexual reproduction involves only mitotic division, no meiotic division. And already you will be knowing that the asexual reproduction is uniparental. That means only one parent is involved. And the second important point, whatever the offsprings or young ones which are produced in asexual reproduction, they are morphologically and genetically similar to that of their parent. And these young ones are called as clones. C-L-O-N-E-S, clones. Very important 1 mark question so far as your theory part is concerned. Question pattern might be asked in ways. Define clone or what are clones? Clones can be defined as the offsprings or the young ones that are produced are morphologically similar and genetically similar to the parent. Hence, they are called as clones. And the next point. So, in asexual reproduction, meiosis does not take place. Since the meiosis does not take place, the gametes are not produced. If the gametes are not produced, what might be the next concept? If the gametes are not produced, then it does not lead to variation. Variation means changes. If there is no variation, then obviously it does not lead to evolution. That is very important. Evolution means changing from one condition to another condition is called as evolution. Very important concept. See, in asexual reproduction, meiosis does not take place. Since the meiosis does not take place, gametes are not produced. If the gametes are not produced under the influence of meiosis, then it does not lead to variation and as well as evolution. Please make a note of this last point, and before this last point, this is third point and fourth point, keep remember, very important. So next we shall move on to the next important concept, the types of asexual reproduction, because already I have explained the 5 important types of asexual reproduction. The first one is called as budding, it's on the screen. Second one is called as binary fission, and the third one is called as fragmentation, and the fourth one is called as sporulation, and the fifth one is called as vegetative propagation. So for this module, we will be concentrating on the 2 important types of asexual reproduction. Among them, the first one is called as budding. What do you mean by budding? See, budding, it is a type of asexual reproduction in which a parental organism divides into 2 unequal sized individuals. That is called as budding. See, in unequal sized individual, one is larger individual, another one is called as smaller individual. The larger individual is considered to be as a parent, and the smaller individual is called as a bud. Bud is nothing but a small outgrowth. And during budding process, what happens? A small projection, which is called as outgrowth, called bud, which is formed on the parental organism. Whether the bud may occur external surface of the body of the parent or the internal surface of the body of the parent, that we will be learning under the types of budding. The next one, which is called as, this bud later detaches from their parent and they may develop into a new organism. Once the bud is formed on the body surface of the organism, so they get all the nourishment from their parents. Once it get completely developed, it detach from the parental body, and later on it becomes a new organism and it lives independently. So that is the beauty of budding. See, under budding, we have got 2 different types of budding. Very important. The first one is called as exogenous. Exo means outside the body of an organism. That is why exogenous budding is also called as external budding. See, what happens during external budding? Here, the budding takes place outside the body of an organism. Hence, it is called as external budding. The best example, we can say it as yeast. Yeast, already you will be knowing, yeast is a unicellular fungus. And hydra. Hydra belongs to phylum Coelenterata. Both yeast and hydra, they comes under exogenous or external budding. Coming to the next one, obviously external, second one is called internal. Internal budding, or it is also called as endogenous budding. Endo means internal. Endogenous budding or internal budding. So here what happens? In the internal budding, the budding takes place inside the body of an organism. The best example, which is called as spongilla. Spongilla belongs to sponges. Phylum Porifera. To Porifera, the spongilla belongs to. The common name for spongilla is freshwater sponge. So, we have studied about the 2 different types of budding, exogenous versus endogenous. So, the next we will be learning about how exactly the exogenous or external budding occurs in yeast and as well as hydra, and how does the endogenous or internal budding occurs in spongilla or freshwater sponge. Quickly, we will be learning about the budding in yeast, how exactly the budding in yeast occurs. Already I have told, budding in yeast. Yeast is a unicellular fungus. Please keep remember. See, this is a diagram how exactly the budding takes place in the yeast. See, here yeast is a unicellular fungus. Just now I told. During favorable conditions. Sir, what do you mean by favorable condition? If the yeast gets proper sugary medium or sugar solution. Sugar solution, very important, make a point of it. So it reproduces asexually by budding. See, this is the parental cell. See, if this parental cell gets sufficient amount of sugary medium, then definitely the yeast can reproduce asexually with the help of budding. See, next one, a small outgrowth called bud arises on one side of the parental cell. See, this is the parental cell. Over the surface of the body of the parental cell, a small outgrowth develops. This outgrowth is called as bud, and this bud carries a small or bit of cytoplasm from the parental cell. From this parental cell, it carries a bit of cytoplasm. After carrying a bit of cytoplasm, what happens? Please look at this nucleus. Nucleus is present in the parental cell. The nucleus of the parental cell divides. Then one of the daughter nuclei, see, it divides into two. One of the daughter nuclei slowly passes into the bud. See, it is entering into the bud. Then the bud separates. The bud separates as soon as it receives a bit of cytoplasm and one daughter nucleus from the parental body. The bud which has been grown on the parental body, it completely separates from the parental body and develops into a new organism. Since here the budding occurs on the external surface of the body of the yeast, this type of budding is called as external budding. See here, the bud grows outside the body of the parental cell and later on completely detaches from the parental cell. That is why this type of budding is called as external budding or exogenous budding. So next, after learning about budding in yeast, one more important, which is called as budding in hydra, because two examples we studied under exogenous budding. Say yeast over next hydra. See, hydra, already knowing, it belongs to Coelenterata. It is a freshwater Coelenterata. See, this is the parental body. Here, the exogenous budding is also seen in hydra. Hydra is a multicellular organisms. So, here what happens? The bud is formed. This is the bud. It is formed on the outer body surface of the parental body. Later on, this bud detaches from the parental body and it develops into a new organism and lives independently. Here also, the bud formed on the external surface of the body of the parental organism. This type of budding is called as exogenous budding, or it is also called as external budding. Okay children, here we have studied the two types of budding, budding in yeast, budding in hydra. Both comes under exogenous or external budding. So the next second type of budding we are supposed to learn, which is called as internal budding, or which is also called as endogenous budding. So that endogenous budding is commonly seen in spongilla. Look at the diagram of spongilla. This is a spongilla. Sir, what do you mean by this spongilla? Say, spongilla is the asexual reproductive structure produced from the spongilla. See, one more time, I'll repeat. See, spongilla is a porifera. During unfavorable condition, spongilla or freshwater sponges produces asexual reproductive structure. This asexual reproductive structure is called gemmule. G-E-M-M-U-L-E, gemmule. See, in freshwater sponges like spongilla, budding is as the internal bud, because here the bud is formed internal body surface of the organism. That's why it is called as internal budding. Here what happens? The internal buds are produced by the spongilla during unfavorable conditions. So these internal buds, they are called as gemmules. Very important. Name the reproductive structures or name the asexual reproductive structures of spongilla. Write it as gemmules. Definitely you deserve 1 mark. During unfavorable conditions only, the spongilla produces internal buds called gemmules. This is a single gemmule. Now, each gemmule is spherical in shape or round in shape, which consists of a mass of undifferentiated cells. Please look at this. It consists of a mass of cells, undifferentiated cells. These mass of undifferentiated cells, they are called as archaeocytes. Very important. Archaeocytes. And these archaeocytes, they are protected. The archaeocytes are completely protected with the help of a double layered chitinous shell, which is having a small opening called micropyle. Very important. One more time I'll repeat. Archaeocytes are a mass of undifferentiated cells produced inside the gemmules. All these archaeocytes are well protected with the help of a double layered chitinous shell, which is having a minute opening on the anterior region, which is called as micropyle. Next one, on return back to the favorable condition, that means if the favorable condition is approaching, then the archaeocytes come out of the gemmule. Archaeocytes will come out of the gemmule through micropyle. So micropyle is a minute opening. From this micropyle, the archaeocytes, they are coming out. Later they are coming out. Each archaeocyte can develop into a new sponge or new spongilla. Since in spongilla, the buds are formed inside the body of an organism, that is why this type of budding is called as endogenous budding or internal budding. So for this, we have completed the two different types of budding, external budding versus internal budding. So for this, the first type of asexual reproduction called budding gets completed. Next, we shall move on to the second different types of asexual reproduction, which is called as binary fission. See, in binary fission, what happens? It is also a type of asexual reproduction in which a single parental cell divides into two equal sized daughter cells. But in budding, two unequal sized daughter cells. But in binary fission, from a single parental cell, it divides and produces two equal sized daughter cells. And it is found in the members of kingdom Monera and also kingdom Protista. Very familiar with this kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera includes bacteria. Kingdom Protista includes protozoa. They are the two best examples for binary fission. And it is found only in unicellular organism. Binary fission is commonly seen in unicellular organisms. Hence, the unicellular organisms are immortal. In the previous slide, we studied single-celled organisms. They never die. They are immortal in nature because they escape death by undergoing the binary fission process. Now, so during binary fission, what happens? The nucleus of the parental cell divides into two daughter nuclei and a small amount of cytoplasm splits into two units with daughter nucleus. Best example, amoeba and as well as euglena. Even you can also write it as paramecium or also write it as ciliated protozoa. Ciliated protozoa, best example, so paramecium, and also you can write it as planaria. Planaria comes under phylum Platyhelminthes, which are called as flatworms. So on the basis of plane of the cytokinesis, cytokinesis means division of cytoplasm is called as cytokinesis. There are three types of binary fission. The first one is called simple, or it is also called irregular binary fission. The second one is called as longitudinal binary fission, and the third one is called as transverse binary fission. Three types of binary fission: simple or irregular binary fission, longitudinal binary fission, and transverse binary fission. Children, let us learn the three different types of binary fission along with an example in detail. So first, let us take up how exactly the simple binary fission can be seen in amoeba. See, diagram of the amoeba. See, this is the parental cell. Ultimately what happens? A single parental cell divides and gives rise to two equal sized daughter cells, which is called as binary fission. Now under that we will be learning simple binary fission. See, in simple binary fission what happens? As you all know that the amoeba is a unicellular protozoa. So during favorable condition what happens? The favorable condition means what? If the amoeba should get a sufficient amount of food and temperature, proper food and temperature, that is called as favorable condition. With the help of favorable condition, the amoeba reproduces asexually by a method called binary fission. See, during binary fission what happens? The amoeba withdraws its pseudopodia. It literally withdraws its pseudopodia, and the amoeba, whenever it withdraws pseudopodia, the pseudopodia becomes thick. As a result of this is the nucleus of the parental body. This nucleus elongates. Please look at this picture. The nucleus of the parental body elongates and becomes dumbbell shaped nucleus. Look at this dumbbell shaped nucleus. And after the formation of dumbbell shaped nucleus, a constriction occurs on the dumbbell shaped nucleus, again which deepens and divides the nucleus into two daughter nuclei. See, this is the dumbbell shaped nucleus. Over the dumbbell shaped nucleus, a constriction occurs. As a result of this, the two daughter nuclei splits and produces two separate daughter nuclei. Next, what happens? Similarly, one more constriction occurs or appears on the cytoplasm of the amoeba. As a result of this constriction divides the parental cell. This constriction on the cytoplasm, it divides the parental cell with two daughter nucleus. See, this is one daughter cell, this is another daughter cell. See, the daughter cells later on, these are the two daughter cells, later on they feed, they grow, and they continue the process, or they repeat the binary fission process. So in amoeba, the binary fission occurs on any plane, either this plane or this plane or this plane. In any plane it can occur. Because of this reason, the binary fission in amoeba is said to be simple binary fission or irregular binary fission. Very important, simple or irregular binary fission is commonly seen in amoeba. Very important question so far as your competitive part is concerned. So next we shall move on to the second type, which is called as longitudinal binary fission. See, look at that image, longitudinal binary fission. See, this is the flagellated protozoa. Flagellated protozoa, already you have come across with the example Euglena. See, here the cytokinesis takes place along the longitudinal axis. Cytokinesis means division of the cytoplasm is called as cytokinesis. The cytokinesis occurs on the longitudinal axis. As a result of this, the parental Euglena divides into two daughter cells. Since here the binary fission occurs on the longitudinal axis, this type of binary fission is called longitudinal binary fission. Please learn the second and third type of binary fission so far as your competitive exam. Please do concentrate. And coming to the third one, which is called as transverse binary fission. Here the cytokinesis takes place. In transverse binary fission, the cytokinesis takes place along transverse axis. The best example, planarians. Planarians is a flatworm. It belongs to phylum Platyhelminthes. The scientific name for planarians is called Dugesia, D-U-G-E-S-I-A. Probably you have learnt 11th syllabus. And ciliated protozoans. These are the two best examples. Now look at that image. That is the planaria. This is the parental. So here what happens? The cytokinesis takes place along the transverse axis. See, transverse axis. This parental cell divides and produces two daughter cells. Here the binary fission occurs along the transverse axis, like this transverse axis. This kind of binary fission is said to be transverse binary fission. So children, For this, we have completed the three different types of binary fission. Simple or irregular binary fission, commonly seen in amoeba. Second one, longitudinal binary fission, commonly seen in euglena. Third one, it's on the screen, transverse binary fission, which is commonly seen in planaria or flatworm and ciliate protozoans. So the next, what is the next concept? Eagerly looking for the next concept. The next concept is multiple fission. Sir, what do you mean by this multiple fission? Binary fission, okay. So a parental organism divides and produces two daughter cells. But what do you mean by multiple fission? See, the multiple fission, it is also a type of asexual reproduction in which the parental body divides into many daughter nuclei, not two, many daughter nuclei or daughter cells. So this type of multiple fission, it is commonly seen in Plasmodium. Perhaps you might have heard about Plasmodium. Plasmodium comes under Sporozoa. That is one of the classification which comes under Protista. See, Plasmodium causes harmful diseases in human beings. Best example, malaria. Plasmodium causes malaria disease in human beings. In this Plasmodium, the multiple fission occurs. Amoeba. Sir, just now I told in amoeba binary fission occurs. Obviously, in amoeba binary fission also occurs. Simple binary fission occurs. Along with the simple binary fission, multiple fission also occurs. And next one, monocystis. These are the three best examples where the multiple fission occurs. And it takes place, the multiple fission takes place during unfavorable condition. Please highlight that point. Multiple fission always occurs during unfavorable conditions. Why? Because to increase the chances of survival of the daughter cells. Because the daughter cells have to survive to repeat the process. Because for this reason, the multiple fission occurs during unfavorable condition. Now, let us move on to the multiple fission in Plasmodium vivax. Actually, vivax is a species name. Plasmodium is the genus name. Clear? So in human health and disease, there is one more beautiful chapter. In that chapter, we will be learning the life cycle of Plasmodium. How exactly the malaria disease spreads from mosquito to human beings. That we will be learning later. See, look at this picture. See, this is the Plasmodium. This is a single Plasmodium. This is the nucleus. Exhausted RBC. We call it as exhausted RBC. So here, cytoplasm is there. Protein granules will be present. See, in the multiple fission in Plasmodium, so during multiple fission in Plasmodium, what happens? The nucleus of the parental cell, this is the nucleus of the parental cell, undergoes amitosis and it produces many nuclei. One more time, a single nucleus of the parental cell undergoes amitosis and produce a large number of daughter nuclei. And each nucleus, it carries or it takes a bit of cytoplasm from the parental cell. From this parental cell, each nucleus, it carries a bit of cytoplasm and forms the daughter cells. These are the daughter cells. See, after that what happens? After that what happens? See, when the parental cell rupture, each daughter cell comes out of the parental body and each daughter cell can develop into a new organism or a new Plasmodium cell. This is how the multiple fission occurs in Plasmodium. That means from one single parental cell, a number of daughter cells are produced. This type of binary fission is called as multiple binary fission. Okay, next. After learning about the multiple fission in Plasmodium, next we will be moving on to the second best example for multiple fission, which is called as multiple fission in amoeba. Multiple fission, or it is also called as encystation and sporulation in amoeba. See, look at that image. See, in amoeba what happens? During unfavorable condition, the amoeba withdraws its pseudopodia. Pseudopodia is also called false feet. It uses for its locomotion and also to capture the food. So this pseudopodia is withdrawn by the amoeba and the body becomes round. It becomes round. The body of the amoeba becomes round during unfavorable condition. Later on, it now secretes, the amoeba secretes 3 layered, 1, 2, 3. Please leave that black color. So black color is pseudopodia. So above the black color layer 1, 2, 3, it secretes 3 layered chitinous cyst wall around itself. For what purpose? For protection. To protect from the unfavorable condition, the amoeba withdrawn its pseudopodia and develops 3 layered chitinous layer around itself for its protection. This process of formation of cyst formation is known as encystment, and the phenomenon is called as encystation. Very important for theory, 1 mark. And the next one, what happens? On comes back to the favorable condition. That means when the favorable condition is approaching, the nucleus of the parental cell divides amitotically and produce a number of nuclei. And each nucleus of the parental cell, it is surrounded by a bit of cytoplasm. And later on, it forms the daughter cells. These daughter cells which are formed inside the parental cell, they are called as pseudopodiospores, or they are also called amoebulae, A-M-O-E-B-U-L-A-E, amoebulae. We call them as amoebulae. So this process of formation of pseudopodiospores or amoebulae, it is called as sporulation. Sporulation in amoeba. So what happens next? When the cyst wall layer breaks, that means on return back to the favorable condition, the volume of this parental body keeps on increasing because the daughter nucleus or daughter cells, they keeps on increasing their numbers. Once the cyst wall layer breaks, each pseudopodiospore or amoebulae comes out of the parental body, and each amoebulae, they can develop into a new amoeba. So here from a single parental cell, a large number of young ones are produced. This is called as multiple binary fission or multiple fission in amoeba. Children, so far this we have studied about the binary fission, 3 types of binary fission. Under that, simple or irregular binary fission. Second one, longitudinal binary fission. Third one, transverse binary fission. And next one, multiple fission in amoeba and as well as in plasmodium. So in the next class, we will be learning the 3 more types of asexual reproduction, which is called as fragmentation, sporulation, and last one, vegetative propagation. Thank you.